What we're going to talk about now, you're going to hear a lot of things that you've just heard in the previous presentation, but you're going to see it in a very specific environment, and we'll move on to that as to how that's actually going to work. So very quickly about us, Chilli IT, IBM business partner. We specialize in IBM power systems, IBM storage. Alongside of that, we're a niche partner because we're operating in the IBM I workplace. So we've been operators, we've been managers of the environment, we've been implementers. We know what it's like to sit on both sides of the desk when it comes to looking after IBM I, and we've built our business around IBM I solutions. So next slide, Jack. What we want to talk to you very quickly today is two things. CopyAssure. So CopyAssure is a professional service from Chilli. So this is what we do. This is the test and validation piece that Jake alluded to. This is what we deliver to our customers. We also wanted to try and make it a little bit more interesting and rather just the technological discussion of, because we can get too excited and we can deep into the, oh, look at this, we can do a copy here, we can do that there. So as we alluded to before, we've got Dora. What we've also got is Bank of England provide us with two things called CBEST and CQuest. So CBEST is a best practices guide. So it's downloadable. You can all take a copy of it and it'll tell you in realms of cybersecurity and what you should be doing, these are what the Bank of England is going to recommend to you. Then you've got CQuest. Now, CQuest is a questionnaire. It's a questionnaire that is a self-assessment. So as an organization, you sit there, you go through CQuest, you answer the questions, then the regulator might come in, review those, and then make some recommendations. Say, actually, you could be a little bit tighter in this area, or you could take, or you've passed with flying colors, I guess. Before we go into the CBEST and the CQuest bit, I'm just going to hand it over to Jack really just to set the scene. Again, it'll cover a few things that you've already covered before, Jake, but also just to get you understanding where we are and what we deliver.
Perfect, thank you. So I've been at Chilli for 10 years now, and the last 2 years I've spent delivering safeguarded copy, which Jake sort of, kindly explained then. So the conversations I've been having with clients has been to take them from a backup strategy to talking about more of an immutable snapshot strategy. So Jake mentioned MVB. We can also call it MVC, minimal viable company. So in my conversations, we see snapshots deployed for those core systems for the business. So the primary systems that the business wants to recover in order to get a backup running. Very quickly, in comparison to a backup strategy, immutable snapshots, typically they're on site, they're on the primary storage array, and they're on quick media, so they're quick to recover. Backup, we can take it every day, whereas a snapshot, we can take it up to every hour, even better in some cases as well. And a backup, if it's off-site, it can be hours or days to recover if you've not tested it before. And with an immutable snapshot, it can be minutes to recover. And if proven, and that's the key bit here, so we're going to talk about today. So the conversation and the question I get asked is, okay, we've got safeguarded copy, problem solved, is that good enough? We've done a lot of testing actually, and we've seen quite a few recovery challenges. So some of the challenges we've seen systems failing to boot. We've seen data being corrupted on snapshots. We've seen unpredictable and unknown restore times. So sometimes the system may take 20 minutes to recover. Sometimes it may take 3 hours. So if you think about that in a real scenario, you want to know how quick the system is going to take in order to recover. And bad data can also still be copied, and that goes for a replication solution as well. Bad data can be replicated across. So we've learned not every snapshot is guaranteed to be usable. If you were to recover and you're not validating your snapshots, this is what it would look like. So on the left, we've got our production data, which is on the storage array. And on the right, we've got immutable snapshots. The IDs there, they're just timestamps and they occur every hour. So the question is, which copy is good? So you've got an unknown recovery point. So you don't know whether that recovery point is going to be of any use, and you don't know how long it's going to take. And this is all through experience with our clients. So where do we want to get to? You saw the slide, is we want a good known recovery point. So in an ideal world, we can say, okay, we've had an issue, systems have gone down, which data points are we going to go back to? Sorry, Jake, but for our clients, we don't want to go back to that first copy and spend time seeing if that's a good copy or not. So in an ideal world, we want to have a bit of a report and say which copy is good, and we'll go back to it that way. In fairness, if you've got automation in place and you can very quickly spin those copies up and validate them, then that's not a problem. But if you haven't got that automation in place, then it's going to take time in order to test that recovery. So this is what CopyAssure does, and over the last few years we've been developing it and delivering it to our clients. So what we do is we automate recovery, we do it for every immutable, when it's created, and we validate that immutable as well. So in order to do that, the safeguarded copy snapshot is taken, we recover it into a clean room environment. Then we check the operating system boots, and that's one of the key things here, especially for IBM I. The I in IBM I stands for integrated. So the database and the operating system are integrated together. So unlike a Red Hat server, for example, where the database sits on top as an application, if the database is corrupted for IBM I, the OS isn't coming up. So it's a real issue for IBM I. Once it boots to a healthy state, we validate the operating system, and we can also run application checks. So over the years, we've developed the ability, and we call it a virtual operator. So anything you would do on the system in terms of validation, and this is the conversation we have, we ask our clients, if you were to bring up a system today and validate it, what would you do on that system to make sure it's a good copy before you give it back to the business? So we've got the ability to script that. So every immutable, we run those scripts against the system. Once we've done that, we power down that copy, bit of a cleanup process, and we provide a recovery report. And again, that's for every single immutable. So in order to manage those immutables, we've developed a bit of a GUI, and I'll just let this play through. The first page after this one, you'll see a list of systems. After that, we'll go into system detail, so you see a bit of information about the backups, and then you'll see the backup reports as well. That play? Yep. So you'll see some green and red, and those are the immutables, and they're just basically telling us, are they good or are they not? This is what our team uses to very visually see which one's a good copy. So we're going to click into a system. We can see all the historic data about that system for all of the immutables. You can see there's been a few issues over the time they've been running. And with CopyAssure, we're getting that success rate higher because we're learning about the system every time we validate. So you can see here, there's a report for an immutable, and this one's failed. So we can get that level of detail to learn why it's failed. These are those recovery steps. This is that recovery plan. The ones in yellow were the OS checks and the application checks. They were skipped because that system didn't boot. So if you think about the recovery process, an issue's happened, as we said before. This is the ideal world. You come into here, you pick which good safeguarded copy you've got, and then recover it. What you can give to the business is you can give it the time it's going to take. You know the point, maybe 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, but you're guaranteed, you've already proven it boots, and you give them how long it's going to take. So that's a very quick run through of the solution, and we're going to integrate it into the PRA audit as well from the Bank of England.
Okay, I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's not very, very interesting, if I'm totally honest, but it is an important thing. It's a questionnaire, it's a self-assessment that you can do. You get, the final part of it is recover, and I think there's 6 questions in recover, yep. And you get answers graded A, B, C, D, A being the best, D being the worst. So I'm going to give you the answer, and I don't apologize for this. I'm going to read it, and it is very wordy, but I'm just going to try and relate back to how CopyAssure, the professional service that we provide, how it makes you achieve that A answer, that gold standard, if you like. So the first question is, how do you ensure you're adequately prepared for recovery? So the ideal answer is an overarching policy is established that sets the requirements for business, IT and cybersecurity stakeholders to prepare for business and IT recovery following a cyber incident. So because I'm delivering it as a professional service, I've got to work with you. So I've got to understand what the business requirements are, what your cyber recovery currently is in terms of a plan, and then apply that into an IBMI workload and help you create that documentation. So straight away, we can answer that, yes, we have because we have this policy established, we have a partner who we work with and we help. If it doesn't already exist, I'm very surprised. What we tend to find is it probably exists, but it exists for the easier workloads, the Windows type workloads. The IBMI, the Power workload is put to one side and just left as well, it looks after itself primarily, but we can move further on to that. The second question is, again, it's recovery plans. So recovery plans that cover the recovery of system and data from an incident caused by a cyber attack. The best answer is yes, we've got the plans created, they're maintained, they cover the technology in line with business requirements following a cyber attack, and we also update them as necessary. So as we saw before from Jack's demonstration, what you can do, you can very quickly look at the GUI. You can see that recovery, what we're doing in test and validation, is exactly what we perform in recovery. So we slow all of those steps of recovering the systems. I think just on what we've written in terms of the scripting, Jack's got a little bit more here that shows you really how it actually works in anger rather than just me talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're seeing here on the right is we've skipped ahead and we've picked a good immutable to recover. And now this is that recovery plan kicking into gear. So on the right, that's CopyAssure in the background doing its automation. And on the left, we're recovering a system, which is Chilli IBMI recovery there. Once the system comes up, on the next slide, we'll see those application scripts. Okay, so system's up. The question is, what do we do next? So we've got those predefined automation scripts to validate that operating system. So on the right, bit techie, is what we call Chilli's virtual operator. That scripting on the right drives what happens on the operating system, which you'll see on the left. So for IBMI users, we call it a green screen on the left, and it's unique because typically that would be someone on the keyboard and mouse navigating through menus, doing queries. We're executing those via the scripting language on the right.
I think the thing to understand with this is everybody wants to get to this position where they can do the rapid recovery that we spoke about before. You want to take the immutables, you can take the immutables, the test and verification, that's the harder piece. Everybody's already got a job, they've already got things that keep them busy all day. We take that pain away from the customer. So we say to the customer, offset that to us, let us do all this test and verification and let us tell you when you've got an issue and just run things for you on your behalf.
Yeah, and also what we're not saying is this is 100% there and you can give it back to the business after this has happened, but we're trying to get you 80% of the way there super quick, and that's the idea here. In a real life scenario, you're always going to need hands on the keyboard, someone to go on and validate, but if we can automate and validate, majority of that process, why wouldn't we do it?
Okay, so the next question in the questionnaire would be, do you hold accessible and secure backups of data? The best answer is yes, all data is backed up and encrypted in line with business requirements, including by at least one format that does not require continuous access to the network. So flash system, it's logically air gapped, we've got an immutable copy. If we want to advance that, we could actually replicate the storage to another location and take the backup on another location. There's plenty of things we can do. As we saw before from some of the screenshots, you can see what we've got is a GUI that shows you exactly how many copies we've taken. So these are all the copies of the data that we're taking for you. More importantly, on the right-hand side, what we're showing you as well is what we've backed up, what's passed and what's failed. So not only are we taking them, but we're also testing and verifying them. And that's the important thing. We can't stress it enough. Test and verification has to be performed. If we don't test, if we don't verify, we can't rely on it. I don't want to be, because I'm selling a professional service, I don't want to be the guy that you come to and say, it took us 3 goes before we got our data back. Ben, what happened there? So we perform this for you and we guarantee that you've got that known recovery point. Do you perform recovery testing? I think we've covered it, yes. The best answer is across all important business services. Now, I can't do all important business services because I'm specific around IBMI. What I can do is I can show you with IBMI how we do it and what we do with the data. So as Jack said before, we've got we've stolen that line at the top.
Yeah.
So we were on one of the Cyber Academy calls and one of the guys said, yes, he does his testing and he's got the receipts to prove it.
Recovery receipts.
Yeah, if we come across him, we'll apologise and hold our hands up. But yeah, that is very important. It's about us being able to guarantee again that yes, test, verification, There's your receipt. If you want to use that copy, you can go ahead and use that copy. Okay, so this question is, I'm not sure if I understand it the way in which it's meant, but the way I'm interpreting it is as follows. So to what extent you proactively engage with your critical third parties and partners? So I believe because I'm selling you a service to perform this test validation, this whole management of the environment, that I am absolutely engaged with you. So yes, the best answer is there is an annual engagement with all material third parties to ensure alignment on mutual and shared cyber risks. I'm having monthly reviews, I'm having annual reviews, I'm updating my service as and when I need to, and I'm constantly reporting back. So I think we passed that with flying colours. And then the final question in the recovery piece is, do you have a process in place that incorporates lessons learned from cybersecurity tests, events and incidents? Okay, the answer, procedures in place to ensure lessons are always learned, and yes, where appropriate, external assurance is sought. Lessons drive continuous improvement. Now, what follows here is actually a customer example. So this is where we've used the test and verification and that level of continuous improvement, that reporting that we provide back to the customers, it shows quite clearly how that is really important in these scenarios.
So we had an issue with one of our clients where one of the systems, the immutables, stopped booting completely, didn't even get to the operating system. Quick overview of their configuration that we've set up for them before I go into that detail is they've got 4 business critical systems, so IBMI. This is a large UK retail company. We've got them down, and it's taken probably the last year to get them down to an immutable every hour. So each system has an immutable every single hour. Every snapshot, we validate it. So 24 snapshots a day per system. Hope my math's okay here. That's 96 a day for all systems. And if anyone's really good at maths, that's 672 total a week. So I think that's pretty impressive, the fact we're validating every single one of those immutables as well. I was actually looking at the figures the other day, and I think we'll be hitting close to 10,000 immutables that we would have validated across our clients. So we're getting there, and every immutable gives us an opportunity to learn more about the systems and that recovery process for the client. So what was the issue? So the problem was it stopped booting. We give these systems a threshold in order to boot within a given threshold because we're taking a snapshot every hour. So if it takes 3 hours to boot, when a good copy is 25 minutes, a lot of the time we'll just say after 90 minutes, it's not a good copy, we won't use it. This system here, a good boot time was 25 minutes. Even when we set it to 180 minutes, it still wasn't booting. So how did we get alerted to this? Well, it was the CopyAssure monitoring. So every time we take an immutable, those reports go back to our guys at the office and they keep an eye on it. So how did we troubleshoot it? Again, this is because we've developed that close relationship with the clients and the team around the recovery. So we're having those ongoing conversations. So first off, we evaluated the CopyAssure reports, which you'd previously seen. And initially, we increased the boot threshold. So we tried to allow the system to boot and it just wouldn't boot at all. So we contacted the client team. So there's a few troubleshooting steps that we followed there, and these were all predefined, so we knew exactly what we were going to do. What was the result? Well, it's quite simple in the end. We just discovered that the development team had deployed a new process, a new piece of code that was running on the hour every hour, which coincided when the snapshots were being taken. This created an issue with the operating system being really busy at the time of the snapshot and basically created a corrupt snapshot. So that was the issue. What was the fix? Oh, we just shifted the snapshots to a different time. But if you weren't validating these snapshots, you could be sitting there with 30 immutables and none of them would boot. So that's the issue. Improvements, again, as Ben mentioned, it's this continuous talking to the teams. We just got a bit closer to the development team and we got one of those guys into our regular meetings, and that was just a cycle of improvement. Moving forward, because safeguarded copy, it's been released on Flash system over the last few years, so it's an ongoing process of improvement. We're going to create more advanced GUI. We're going to integrate some machine learning into our monitoring, so looking for anomaly detection in some of the boot times. Integration with Predator, if anyone's familiar with Predator, they do software recovery assurance for backups on Intel, because a lot of our clients obviously have Intel that connect to the iSeries as well. So we want to make sure the whole business recovers at the same time. Yeah, product integrations into QRadar for our clients. And we're also looking at vulnerability alerts. So any new vulnerabilities come out for the operating systems, we also want to let people know about that as well. And enhanced analytics. So that's where we're going with it over the next year or 2 or 3. So
Yeah,
see how
who
long it
knows?
takes, but going to be busy. So
I think one thing just to mention as well, if we go back up and we see those where we saw some failures of the system booting, that's in no way a failure of the ability of the flash system to create the immutable copy.
yeah,
The immutable copies all worked as they should. They were able to boot to a certain degree. As Jack mentioned before, the IBMI, the database is integrated with the OS. It can have a bit of trouble sometimes around access paths and object identification, and that's where we found the errors. So all it did for us is it proved that test and verification. If you haven't tested a copy and you're going to rely on that for recovery, then you're creating yourself a potential issue. May not happen, but if you want to guarantee, which we will provide as part of our service, then yeah, you need to test and verify everything.